Good evening and good morning to everyone. I am Bhikkhu Sophea speaking from Long Beach, California on Buddhasāsanā program of the CBMS, Cambodian Buddhist Monk Society. Before we begin, let me start by paying homage to the Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha with my respect to both venerable monks here and also venerable monks around the world who happen to watch this program. And once again, today our topic is continued from last week. We have discussed about the Four Noble Truths. So today we continue with the Noble Eightfold Path, which is the last truth in the Four Noble Truths. So once again, welcome Venerable Dhammapala and Venerable Yeath from Boston and Venerable Dhammapala from Iowa, Des Moines. So thank you again for joining us. And today, I would like to start with Venerable Dhammapala first. But I would like to inform you that I would like to categorize this Noble Eightfold Path into three categories. The first will be dealing with our action, our body. The second one will be speech. And the third one will be mind. So this Eightfold Path will be categorized into three. So I would like to start with, I would like to give Venerable Dhammapala with the action. So like, right livelihood and so on. So to describe on this particular topics, and then Venerable Yeath will be discussing on the speech. So like, right speech. So, and then for the mind, we will be sharing all together to discuss the right meditation or right concentration. So let me start with Venerable Dhammapala. So, but first, I would like you to tell us the whole Eightfold Path, so people could understand that this is the path that the Buddha introduced to us to practice in order to overcome suffering. So I want to start with Venerable Dhammapala. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, dukkha is the Pali word. I'm not going to use a lot of Pali language. I think that we need to be very clear in our communications, and sometimes people don't understand the Pali. But yes. Dukkha is the problem, and dukkha is a word which points to a broad range of discomforts, of dissatisfactions, of things that could be better in our life. And the Eightfold Path is the discipline. It is a set of practices. There are 8 practices. That's why it's called the Eightfold Path. And for 2,600 years, we've been experimenting with this practice to see if it actually works. And it does. If you faithfully and religiously and put forth the effort and the time and the commitment, practicing the Eightfold Path will reduce the amount of dissatisfaction, the amount of annoyance, the amount of suffering in your life. And what are these 8 practices? Well, first off, it's not a linear set of practices. You don't do number 1 until you've got it mastered, and then you move on to number 2, and you do it until you have it perfected, and then you move on to number 3. The Eightfold Path is often depicted as a wheel with 8 spokes, and like a wheel, as it turns, as it rotates, each of the spokes comes into play. And during the course of every day, if we're practicing the Eightfold Path, each of these practices, each of these spokes will come into play. So what are they? Well, each of them begins, I'm going to talk way too long here.
Make it brief.
Each of them begins with the word sama, the Pali word sama, which means right. It also means best. It also means we can say it means ennobling, because this is the noble Eightfold Path. That it is a set of practices that noble people practice, and that if you practice, it will help you become more noble. So the 8 are right thought, or right perception, or right understanding, or right view, right perspective. And that takes a lot of unpacking. The second is right intention or right aspiration. Uh, they all require a lot of explanation. The third is right speech, and speech. I think today we could even say right communication, because in the Buddha's day there were very few people who could write, and so the vocal, the speech was the common form of communication. Um, right action. Action, we might say right means of acting or right way of acting. Right, traditionally it says right livelihood, but again in the Buddha's day, one's livelihood determined how one lived, one's lifestyle. And so we could easily say today right livelihood or right lifestyle. Right effort. And this one is very key. It's the relief of suffering, the relief of discontentedness is something you have to do. You have to work at it. It's nobody's going to wave a magic wand or sprinkle fairy dust and make it happen. You have to put forth the effort. Right mindfulness. And mindfulness is a hot topic today. There are many people who are, quote, teaching mindfulness. There are programs for mindfulness in the schools. And if you look at them closely, some of them are markedly different from the rest. And so mindfulness is one of those words that needs to be explained. Traditionally, it means being aware, paying attention, putting your focus on something. And traditionally, there were 4 things. There was the physical being. There is the physical being. There's the emotional being. There's the cognitive being. And then there is our environment, our social and physical environment in which we exist. The 8th practice is sama samadhi. And this one is really easily misunderstood. Samadhi is both a practice, it's something you do, but samadhi is also a state of being. It's a place that you achieve or you arrive at. And I could talk for the next 2 days, but I think that gives an overview.
But we haven't that much time to talk for 2 days. So
Yes.
yes, so this, I think this should be the best briefing that you have shared with us, the Eightfold Path. So I would like to go further on how can we put those Eightfold Path into practices, because it's sometimes we have a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, but when putting things into practice, it seems very difficult. So now I would like to turn this Eightfold Path to Venerable Dr. Yeath on this topic. I would like you to describe the right speech. Actually, I have read a book that a scholar translated into a different words, but I kind of like it. He said it is skillful speech. So it's kind of like
Yes.
it is important that for all of us to be how to speak to someone and how to express our thought through our speech to people around us. So I would like to invite Venerable Dr. Yeath, or what can you say about what should be the skillful speech that we are using a day-to-day life. So could you please describe and explain to us, and hopefully we can more or less put this into practice in our daily life. Thank you. So could you please explain to us on this?
My deep respect to the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, and to venerable monks ladies and gentlemen. We, as Venerable Dhammapala has already explained the Noble Eightfold Paths, and I'm here only want to pick up only one path, which is called Samavaja, clearly explained in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, which is the first sermon given by the Buddha more than 2,000 years ago. And in this Samavaja, the third path, which had been encouraged and taught by the Buddha, in order to practice the Samavaja according to what it is explained in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, the practitioners has to abstain from 4 kinds of speeches, which is, speech is good speech and bad speech. And in the Sutra, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra is referred to the good speech that someone have to practice it. One has to abstain from false speech, something which is not true, something which is not correct. So the practitioner have to make sure that have to be mindful on what kind of speech he is giving, what kind of speech he is speaking, and one of that speech has to be truth, meaning that one have to avoid the false speech, simply no telling lies, in whatsoever circumstances. This is the real meaning of the false speech, musavada. And the second one, the practitioner have to practice to avoid the slanderous speech, saying, which is not good. And the third one is hateful speech. Some people give a very hateful speech with their own hidden agendas. So hateful speech is not encouraged in Buddhism. One have to avoid that speech, because this hateful speech leading to a lot of issue in the society, especially in the modern time. If you look at how the medias, the world medias, for example, like Twitter, Facebook, and other, giant medias, electronic media, they try to control this sort of hateful speech, because this hateful speech leading to a lot of problems in the society, leading to the confusions, misunderstanding. And when we had a lot of misunderstandings in the society, it led to violence. This is for sure. And the fourth one is idle chatter, useless speech. Useless speech doesn't mean, some people misunderstand that useless speech, which in Pali we call sampapalapa. Sampapalapa means saying something which is not useful, because if we look at the Cambodian proverb, I think whenever Dhammapala might not have heard those proverbs. We say, Munīkosala, meaning that the importance of the human being is a speech. Speech is a speech, meaning that the person have to speak something which is very useful. So these 4 kinds of speeches is taught in the sutra, in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra. It is very simple, but it is very hard to practice for all of us, because whenever we speak, we have to be mindful. And in the modern time, I'm sorry to say, in the modern time, it is not in the modern time. I think in the human history, people use speech to kill each other, and speech can be used to win the hearts of the people. Some people, they don't kill each other with the weapons, but they kill each other with the speech, with the rumors. They try to use speech in order to cause chaos in the societies and bring the misunderstanding and a lot of things if speech is not correctly observed and practiced. It's very simple, Venerable Sir. This is what has been taught in the sutra. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Venerable. So yes, it is important for all of us to understand that how we use our speech that could affect our life and people around us. So if we have enough mindfulness to control, sometimes we express our speech, our anger through speech, and then that could affect not just people around us, but it could affect to people, ourselves and our loved ones. So that's why the Buddha is very concerned for all of us to practice right speech or skillful speech that use the proper words and express a proper things in front of people. So now I want to turn to Venerable Dhammapala. So we already have understood by Venerable Dr. Seng Yeath explained to us how important the right speech is. And now in our day-to-day life, action is also very important too. So if we do not act rightfully, then it could affect to our life and people around us. So I would like Venerable Dr. Dhammapala to explain what is the right action and right livelihood that we are all are practicing in our life. So what would be the teaching of the Buddha to that you can explain to the people that what is right action and what is right livelihood. So thank you for joining us.
Right action. Let's remember that the problem, the issue, is dukkha. That is unsatisfactory. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I've got a little. Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
The problem is dukkha. The problem is dissatisfactoriness, unpleasantness. Things are not as we deem they should be, and so in some sense the problem is suffering. So right action is going to be action that addresses that problem and that reduces the amount of suffering, the amount of dukkha. Traditionally, for lay people, for the everyday person on the street, there are 5 precepts. There are 5 statements that will guide our action. They're just a beginning. They're just a start. They're a foundation. They don't encompass everything that we need to think about and do, but they're a good start. The first, traditionally, is to refrain from taking life. And these are not thou shalt nots. They're not like commandments that are laid down that, if you don't do this, bad things are going to happen, terrible things. These are guides to reducing dukkha. So refrain from taking life. And this is refrain from taking life on the human level, but also all the way down the chain of sentient beings. And if we unpack this a little bit, we can also think about refrain from doing harm, not just taking life, but doing harm. The second precept is refrain from taking that which is not given. And I would add that which is not offered. If it's not yours, don't take it. And this would apply to material things, money and jewels and property. But I think it also applies to ideas, intellectual property, software. And in the world today, there's a lot of stealing of ideas and stealing of technology ideas. And so we need to be mindful of whether we have any kind of permission or right to use that, to claim it. Refrain from sexual misconduct. And sexual misconduct is one of those I've taught at the university level, and I've brought this up, and the students, some of them get a little antsy with it, and some of them get a little defensive about it, but it's really quite simple. Any conduct, any activity which is sexual in nature, which is likely to cause dukkha, is wrong. We just don't want to do that. Adultery, such horrible things as sexual assault, they cause dukkha, and so we should refrain from those sorts of things. Refrain from saying that which you do not know to be true, and we're back to false speech. And I think that it's notable that this is one of the basic moral premises, one of the 5 precepts, as well as one of the 5 or 8-fold practices. It's very important. Speech, communication. And as has been pointed out, we need to be mindful of what we are saying. We need to be mindful that words are goopy. What I mean by a word, another person might not have the same meaning. And so I need to understand that sometimes when I use a word, somebody else will think I'm saying something other than I am. I need to be, and not just saying, but when I'm writing, we need to, and today the written communication is so important. And so right speech in terms of written communication. And the last one is something that I often bring up with political people, and that is refrain from the use of alcohol, and expanding that any substance that alters the consciousness in such a way that we don't think clearly, that we are easily confused. And this points out the importance of cultivating a clear mind, a strong mind. So refrain from taking life, refrain from taking that which is not given, refrain from sexual misconduct, refrain from saying that which is not true, and refrain from the use of alcohol and other substances which cloud the consciousness. And these things are so prevalent in our society. To convince people that life would be better for them if they did not engage in these things is a very difficult task. But that's what we need to be doing.
Yes, so thank you so much, Venerable. That this is the basic practice. Actually, when we heard about the teaching of the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths at the Eightfold Path, if we didn't understand the Pali word, so sometimes we just feel like, it is a super teaching or something, but actually it is a simple practice that each and every one of us can put into practice, and then it is not for, not just for your own benefits by practicing those things, but for your family, for the society, and for the world peace. If we all can practice all of these basic 5 precepts that are very simple but important to each and every one of us. So I want to turn to Venerable Dr. Yuan Seng Yeath. You have mentioned about the Samavaja, the speech that if you're speaking forcefully, it could give a lot of negative effects back to you and people around you. So I would like to clarify on this, and by using the right understanding, because some people I'm especially in the world of online things, we usually we express our speech through keyboard, typing, and because we do not have the skillful understanding. I would say this because some people might be translated to the right understanding, but I want to use this as skillful understanding. Is that now they are imposing the law, which is you cannot get away from it by bullying people, by a lot of happens not just in. I think we can say all over the world that people are using speech, hateful speech through online by bullying people. So what should be right understanding on it? What would you explain to the people that you need to have a skillful understanding over this, and that there is karma, there is a law of cause and effect. If you are committing this kind of, bad speech through, so what would you explain to the people that we need to keep this in mind, that to have skillful understanding that, speaking bad to others, it could give you a negative effect sooner or later. Thank you.
A very simple definition given to the term right understanding in a very simple meaning is, right understanding is defined by the Buddha as, when we understand that our speech is harmful to the others and harmful
I'm on the
to our.
internet.
Hello, can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
The definition of the word right understanding in a very simple meaning is, we have to understand what is right and what is wrong. And we have to accept that in order to use the right speech, we have to keep in mind that if our speech is harmful to the others and harmful to ourselves, that should be avoided. Very simple meaning, very simple definition.
Yes.
I think most of people have common sense to understand that this is a right speech and this is a wrong speech. Any speech which brings harm to ourselves, that is not good. And if that.
Oh,
Oh,
I think
we lost him.
yeah, we lost him. So I would okay. Let's continue with you. So let me bring back to the right livelihood. As we are living in day-to-day life, that sometimes we are living our life in a wrong way. So what would be the right livelihood in Buddhist perspective, in Buddha's teaching? So it is important for all of us to have to have right understanding on right livelihood. How can we live a life without distraction, and how can we live a life more happier than unhappy life? So what would be what can you explain to us?
He's back. Shall we continue with him?
Okay. Okay,
gone
fine.
again.
Okay, you start with you.
Okay.
Start with you first. Okay. Okay.
I think we need to clarify a little bit. Right lifestyle and right livelihood. Right livelihood is how you earn your living, and in the traditional teachings, we want to avoid occupations. We want to avoid jobs that involve harm, that involve killing, that involve, for instance, the making of poisons, the making of ammunition, the making of weapons. These would be considered livelihoods, jobs that are not conducive to a dukkha-free, a suffering-free world. But in terms of lifestyle, we need to be, we keep bringing up mindfulness, but we also have to bring up right knowledge or skillful understanding, right view, right perspective, that what we do matters. Everything we do has consequences. Everything, thought, speech, thought, word, and deed. Everything has consequences. And being mindful of this, and we should be able to project ahead a little bit into the future, that if I do things in a lifestyle that potentially can cause unpleasantness, dissatisfaction, suffering, then if I do them often enough, sooner or later they're going to. If I consistently run red lights or drive too fast, if I drink and drive, if I consistently scream and yell at people who aren't doing things the way I want them to do, sooner or later this is going to catch up with myself and with society, and it's going to cause dukkha. So, right lifestyle, right livelihood is to live your life consciously, intentionally, in a way that reduces dukkha and reduces suffering and unpleasantness.
Thank you so much. So, yes, Venerable, you put it into a very important understanding that we all need to have to understand the right livelihood, to live our life without distraction from the negative effect. So I would like to turn to Venerable Dr. Yonsen yet again. This time, I hope you're not cut off again. Let me start by the, right effort. A lot of us are, whether with our action or whether with our speech, sometimes we are trying to. Oh, it's gone again.
May I speak to right effort?
Yes.
Okay. Effort. Effort takes energy. I mentioned earlier that the Eightfold Path is a system. It is a discipline. It is a set of practices, and they all interact. And here again, right effort. Right effort. Effort takes energy. Effort means that we put forth our energy towards whatever it is we're trying to achieve or whatever it is we're trying to prevent. So right effort means we have to try. Nobody's going to do it for us. And there's a famous saying, and I think it comes from a 12th or 14th century Jewish rabbi. It says, when faced with something that needs to be done, if not I, then whom? If not now, then when? And I think those are two things that are involved in effort. We need to understand what the problem is, what needs to be done, and we need to understand whether we have the adequate knowledge and skills and abilities to do it. And if so, then trying.
Thank you. Yes. So thank you, Venerable Dhammapala. So now, Venerable Dr. Yonsen Yeath back on the show again. I would like to explain that I think you have been involved with a lot of solving the problems, whether it is the problems within the communities, the problems with the Sangha. So, what could be the right effort on sometimes people are having conflicts, which we understand that it's going to be endless, and we are trying, and sometimes also the same thing that we're doing something action of the we're doing something that we try, we put a lot of effort in doing it, but it seems like useless. At the same time, right speech, we speaking, we trying to persuade people to understand the cause of the problems and then and to put an end to it. But sometimes our trying is useless. Our effort is useless because like people have a different understanding. People have different benefits, and they have different agenda. So no matter how we try, no matter how much effort we do it, but it is still not helping us to solve the problem. So what can you explain to us in the the skillful effort I would put in this term, or right effort, maybe we understand in this way. So what can you share with us on this right effort? Thank you.
Very well, moderator. Can I back to the first question that you imposed on me?
Yes.
Can I finish it?
Yes. Go ahead first.
If I'm not wrong, your question is, how do we know that whether we are using the right speech or not? Is it that your question? The previous one?
Yes.
And my answer to that question is, any speech will bring harms to oneself and to the others. That is not a good speech. very simple definitions given by the Buddha. Anything which is harmful to oneself and to the society, that should be avoided. And answering to your second question with regard to the right effort, I think the right effort in the sutra simply refer to the, four kinds of efforts, or four kinds of virya. It is called badhana. Badhana means efforts, a great badhana in Buddhism. One is samvara badhana. Try to, try to get away from the bad deeds. Try not to commit any bad deeds, physically, verbally, and mentally. Anything which is bad, unwholesome, should be avoided. The first one is called samvara badhana. The second one is called the pahana badhana. If there is anything wrong or bad in our mind or committed by our physical act or verbal act, we must try to give up those unwholesome deeds. I think the Buddha is smart, clever enough to understand how human being works in their own, in their own action in terms of right and wrong. So, in this sense, the second one, the pahana badhana, if there is something wrong, if we happen to commit bad deeds, we must be mindful and understand that these deeds should be stopped, should be given up. And the third one is called bhavana badhana. Try to cultivate the wholesome deeds. Wholesome deeds have to be cultivated. It is not something falling from the sky or happening in your dreams or given by someone, the gods or whatever. No. The human action have to be cultivated by human beings. And the Buddha clearly explained that in order to purify our minds, our bodies, our speech, one must put a great effort into it. Meaning that try to do good things, simple statement. I can say that try to do good things. And the fourth one is called anuraka badhana. If we already committed many good deeds, many meritorious deeds, we have to try to maintain that actions in our day-to-day life. We cannot be reckless or careless. So, in this great effort, one must, in brief, is first try to avoid the bad deeds. Second one, if the bad deeds already committed by us, we must try a way to stop it. And the third one is try to cultivate good deeds. And the last one, we must try to maintain, try to be mindful of what is going on, what is the good deed which we already done in the past. Because the good deed is not enough for human beings. We have to cultivate it from day to day life. Just one example taken from the Buddha's life. The Buddha is a very busy religious leader those days. If we look at the Buddha Gaya, the Buddha's duties, from morning till from the dawn till the midnight, Buddha is fully engaged with the activities. And in the sutra, as we came across, the Buddha normally having a walking meditation in the morning before he goes out for Panapada. So even though after the enlightenment, Buddha keep doing good things. So as a practitioner, we should not be careless of what we are doing in our daily life. This is called the right effort.
Thank you so much. So yes, so let me turn back to Venerable Dr. Dhammapala. As Venerable Dr. Yeath has mentioned about the right effort and explained the meanings of it. So I would like to turn to another fourth path, which is the right mindfulness, or right samadhi.
Oh, which?
Yes. Many of us, many people put a lot of effort doing meditation. Sometimes we we invest a lot of energies in doing it, and we hope that the samadhi could grant something. Or so in Buddhist in Buddhist teaching, what would be the right samadhi that the Buddha explained and guided us in and tell us to put into practice. So, or what can you say about this? Thank you.
Oh, huge task. If I may just make a quick comment on skillful effort, right effort. One of the things that is pointed out is that we need to associate with right people. We need to choose friends who will support us in our right efforts, and I think that's important for all practices in the Eightfold Path. Sama-samati. Did you say? Are you asking about sama-samati and
Yes.
sama-sati both?
Yes, you both.
Okay.
The effort that we are putting, we are having a skillful effort, which is we are going to do a meditation. So sometimes people spend a lot of time, but they are focusing in a wrong way, which is So it's not like based on the Buddha's teaching. So what would be the sama-samati in Buddha's teaching?
Okay. The both right mindfulness and right samadhi. Samadhi is a word that I don't think translates very well. It's been translated as meditation, as concentration, as absorption, but it's one of those words that points to an experience that doesn't lend itself to the spoken word very well. That said, there is a sutra, the Anapanasati Sutta, the mindfulness on the breath sutra, and what is taught as basic to both samasati and samasamati is bringing your attention to the breath and focusing it on the breath. And letting your attention just sit on the breath. And what the intention will wander, that's what minds do, it will wander. And when it does, we bring it back to the breath. And the first thing that happens is that we become calm. We become relaxed. We let go of many of the attachments that we're struggling with. And we begin to see things more clearly. From a calm perspective, we can approach life and truly see reality as it is, not as we would wish it to be. And traditionally, once we attain this state of calmness, this state of equanimity, then we can begin to examine. We can begin to Vipassana is the word. We can look at things and analyze things and examine things very, very carefully, and we will begin to recognize and understand that all things change. Everything is changing. The tallest mountains in the world, the Himalayas, they're continuing to grow. They're rising at something like a half an inch a year. The old Rocky Mountains in the eastern United States, they're getting smaller. Wind and rain are making them. So even the mountains are changing. There is nothing that does not change. Anicca is the Pali word. We begin to see this when we examine. We notice the change. We can begin to see the change. We can, when we focus on ourselves, we see that we are changing. And we also see that there is really no isness, nothing to us that is permanent and unchanging. Anatta is the Pali word. Anatman is the Sanskrit word. And we are a collection of systems, of processes. In modern biological terms, we'd say, well, we've got the nervous system, we've got the musculoskeletal system, we've got the 6 or 7, I can't remember now, different systems. And we're changing, our thoughts change. So correct practice, skillful practice, would be being aware of the change, the impermanence, the transitoriness, and being aware of our own impermanence and our own lack of a permanent self. And also being aware of dukkha. So anicca, anatta, and dukkha, the 3 characteristics, the 3 notable attributes of sentient existence. I could go on, but I think I said enough.
Thank you very much. I would like to have both perspective from you because these are the pathway to liberation. I think it's quite difficult for all of us to understand and to put into a few minutes and finish all of the explanation because it's extremely difficult. If we sometimes we read a lot of books and we still couldn't understand all of this. So but I still wanted to hear some of perspective from Dr. Yuan Seng Yeath. How can you say about the Samma Samadhi or and then another one is skillful concentration. I want to put these two both a question into you, both a right mindfulness and right concentration. So how can you explain to the people that in a very simple way of understanding it? Thank you.
The simple explanation that I can give you now is anything which can keep the minds in balance. That is the right meditations. And meditation doesn't mean to meditate in order to fly in the airs or walk in the waters. Most of people believe that someone meditate in the forest, he might or she might walk on in the air or on the water or can fly. That is not the meaning of the meditation. The meditation taught by the Buddha, we already know that in one of the very simple techniques which is widely used in the Buddhist community is the anapanasati kamatan, the asasa pasasa, breath in, breath out. This is a very simple techniques taught by the Buddha, and I must say that as a Buddhist, most of the devotees, the Buddhist practitioners, do not practice meditation seriously and deeply.
I know.
But it doesn't mean that they are bad Buddhists, because due to many reasons behind that, which I don't want to mention. So most of the practitioners always practice a basic meditation. A basic meditation is when one is able to keep one's mind in balance. That is the right meditation. Keep one's mind in one pointedness. Either 10 minutes or 20 minutes per day or 5 minutes per day. That is a very good practice. That is a very good practice. And some meditator, while they are meditating, so there is a lot of things explained about the meditation, because sometimes there are illusions which is happening while they are meditating. They see the heaven, they see the health, they see the kings, they see blah blah blah, so many things. Some even though try to meditate in order to win the lottery. That is not a good.
Yes.
This is what happening in our community. Anyone who listen to this speak, please stop doing it. Meditation is not something that we practice in order to gain something from the external world. It is something to create a peaceful world. In a peaceful world. In a peaceful world here means the peaceful of mind, the calmness of mind. That is the meaning of the meditation.
Thank you so much. So I think we are about time to end our talk show. But thank you thank you so much for both of you. But it is important. Well, I think this topic is very broad and it takes longer time to explain and this within 1 hour it wouldn't be enough to explain the whole thing. Because like this Eightfold Path is very important for all of us. For to put ourselves into practice, and then because this is the pathway to liberation, and the pathway, or simply we can say the pathway to overcome suffering. Many of us are attaching to a lot of things, and then we couldn't let go, and then we stuck, and we couldn't do anything. So lastly, I would like to give you each of you 1 or 2 minutes to say the important things about this Noble Eightfold Path, and then what briefly, please, how can we as a normal people understand this and then put it into practice and live our life in a better way or happier. Otherwise, we are going to to stuck with this suffering because we couldn't understand the right things to do. So I would like to start with Dhammapala. It's too short actually, but we don't have time. So 1 minute. So what would you say to the people that practice this Noble Eightfold Path could help you to overcome suffering or lead to liberation? So thank you.
Well, I think we need to appeal to their common sense. We need to not try to push them or not try to force them, but simply hold it out to them and say, look at this, and try it, and I think you'll find it works. Not just try it for 5 minutes one day. You have to give it an honest trial of 30 days, maybe. I think that well, let me summarize it with this little 4-line stanza. Easy to grasp, hard to hold. The Buddha's path, noble, eightfold.
Yes.
Very short.
Yes. So
yes.
Yes. So we don't have. So about Dr. Johnson yet, what would you say about this, and what would you encourage people to practice it?
In order to practice Buddhism, we have to practice 3 things. One is sila, which is group the sila, samadhi, and prajna, which these Noble Eightfold Paths have been categorized under these 3 elements. Without one of these 3 things, the Buddhist path is not completed. And for the Asian Buddhists, I'm talking in particular to Asian Buddhists, we practice Buddhism for more than 2,000 years, and Buddhism had been, transformed, from the original Buddhism to some sort of Buddhism which, mixed with the local cultures. I've been to US for over 3 years now, and I see one thing which I want to share with the Asian Buddhists. Meditation is very popular in the Western world because meditation doesn't carry any identity. It is a technique which give a very fruitful, which give a lot of benefits to the practitioner. That is the calmness of mind. When one person is peaceful, then that person is able to do many things. For example, Venerable Dhammapala is born in the Western world and he practiced Buddhism. And I believe that he might practice a lot of meditations. So for our Asian Buddhists, please engage, well, please start to practice Buddhism. I know that many of you practice it, but for the ones who had not practiced meditation, please start to practice it at least 5 to 10 minutes per day. And to
And
practice Buddhism is not something obliged to the Buddha. It is a personal interest for the practitioner. Don't try to misunderstand that practice Buddhism is a sort of duty which one has to fulfill. It is not a duty. It is a must. It is a way that gives us happiness and balance in mind. Because when your house is full of the Dhamma, then it's gonna give your children, you yourself, your community, your society a full happiness. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So you have put you have summarized this in a very brilliant way. Sal Samadhi Panya, which is the morality, meditation, and wisdom. So it is important for all of us to the most important thing is that morality. It represents this eightfold path. But if all of us do not have moralities, we seems like not human being. I don't want to say the other words, because like human being is the wisest being that understand what is right and what is wrong. So we need to have a morality, whether we don't want to practice Buddhism or not, but morality is required to all human beings to uphold. It's just like you are respecting the law, the rule of law. So it is important, and meditation is, yes, it's important it is for your own benefit. It's not whether you believe in Buddhism or not, but every one of us want to have a peaceful mind. So in order to have the peaceful mind, you need to practice meditation. Otherwise, your mind is not still, and then the mind is going to collapse. And the last thing is wisdom. So this would be very important that to have a wisdom that understand all of this, because it could help us to continue our practice. If we do not have wisdom, sometimes just like you said, doing meditation in order to win a lottery, so that is going to stuck with something because you don't have the right wisdom to do it. So thank you so much, Venerable, both Venerable, for joining us to explain all of this. It is very important, and it's very critical for all of us to understand it, whether as a Asian or American, we need to have all of this in our life in order to live a happier life and overcome suffering. So it is time. So thank you so much, and I hope to see both of you again in the next topic. So we will discuss further what would be the good topics that we could share with the people. So this time, so thank you so much, and then all venerable monks who happen to watch this and all lay Buddhist people, please stay safe. And then if you understand something from our talk, please put those understanding into practice for your own benefit. You are not going to practice this for all of us here, but you are practicing this for your own benefit and for the sake of your family happiness and your self happiness. So thank you so much, and then I hope to see you next week. And be safe, stay safe, and be mindful living your life in this pandemic. So thank you so much. See you again.